52-13. That was the final score of Ohio State dominating, destroying, and demoralizing any attack Rutgers had on Saturday afternoon. The Ohio State Buckeyes beat the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Numerous good things we have saw throughout the entire game. We'll talk about those here in this live post-game show of Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And the Buckeyes took a trip to New Jersey and destroyed, demoralized, and absolutely dominated the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I want to welcome all of you that are here watching us live, this live Locked On Buckeyes post-game show after the Buckeyes destroy the Scarlet Knights. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit that like button and the bell to be notified every time a new video goes live. If you're on YouTube and you don't follow me on Twitter, go ahead and do that now. Follow me at jstevens07. This was a game all week long. We heard Stroud looks better. Stroud looks good. Stroud looks like he's having the best week of practice he has had all season. And we were all curious. I was curious. I thought Stroud was going to be the starter at the end of last week's game. I know there was some speculation among people wondering if Stroud would be that guy, would be the quarterback that would start today. And he showed why. He is QB1 at the Ohio State University. Without going to the stats, we'll go look at the stats here very quickly. But what we saw from Stroud today was amazing. But what we saw from Stroud was not just the focus that Stroud had. There was focus from everybody on the field, from the guys on defense, on the defensive line, to the linebackers that were wreaking havoc all game long, to the DBs, to Denzel Burke with that pick six of the overthrow from Noah Vedral, almost said Vendrell. Noah Vedral at the beginning of the game, at the first offensive drive for Rutgers, to Trevion Henderson that continues to impress every single week, to Olave, who got back on track today, and Garrett Wilson and Jigba had a big catch. I mean, there's so much good play from everybody. And I think the word that we can describe with the approach that Ohio State had this week is focus. When you have the proper focus, when you're focused on the task, and when everybody's minds are set on the one goal, you see what happens when you're the more talented team and when you're dominating in a way that you believe you can and you should dominate. Let's go to the stats very quickly. Chris Olave, his game this week was an amazing one. He was dominant and he looked very, very smooth. We'll talk more about how he looked very, very shortly. But in this game, CJ Stroud, 17 for 23, 330 passing yards, 14.3 yards per completion with 5 passing touchdowns. The running backs go as follows. Trevion Henderson, 8 carries, 71 yards, 1 touchdown. That was on the first drive of the game. We'll talk about that play in segment number 2. Marcus Crawley, 7 carries, 58 rushing yards, 8.3 yards per carry. Master Teague III, 11 carries, 52 rushing yards, 4.7 yards a pop. You can't ask for anything better than that. From what we got from the running backs in this game, where you knew that the game could be blown wide open very, very quickly, you want your guys to be consistent, to be smooth, and to just do their job and consistently move the ball forward for 5, 6, 7 yards a pop. But you got 8.9, 8.3, and 4.7 between your top 3 rushers in this game. It's amazing. That also helps lead to Olave with 5 catches for 119 and 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson, 3 receptions, 71 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 2 for 66. Rucker, 4 for 40. Crawley, 1 for 21. That is a reception at that point. Gee Scott Jr., 2 for 15. And Mitch Rossi, first catch of the season, which is also his first touchdown as well. This team was focused from start to finish. And it's not just Ryan Day preaching it and talking about it on his weekly radio show. It's simply the team focusing and realizing it doesn't matter what the coaches say. It doesn't matter what the coaches tell us and preach to us and ways we think we're supposed to be doing things. It's us doing our job every single play, which leads to outcomes like this. And I don't want to say that Rutgers is a bad football team. Rutgers got destroyed because Ohio State is still one of the better teams in college football. There are people out there who will say college football and Ohio State, they're not one of the top teams. Like I've mentioned previously on this show over the past week, the next 3 or 4 games, the games this month, you will see Ohio State play a whole lot better and catapult themselves into the top category conversation in college football once again. On defense, you got Ronnie Hickman doing things. You got Tyrek Williams. He weighs 315 moving like that. Woo-hoo-wee. I'm so glad this is just year 1 of 3 for him at Ohio State. Denzel Burke, and there was a young man that listened to the show, and he ended up tweeting at me and said, at JSteven07, follow me if you don't. He said, we got a dog, DAWG. And yes, we do. Denzel Burke definitely fits that dog category. Why am I getting so excited? Because Ohio State needed dogs early in the season. We're trying to figure out who would emerge as a dog. And there's a reason why quarterbacks don't test Denzel Burke. They might test Sevyn Banks. He got tested early, a call for the pass interference call, a weak pass interference call, but it still was called. And you're going to see Cam Brown get tested. Ain't nobody testing Denzel Burke like they will occasionally, but they won't do it consistently. Because that boy is good. The focus that we saw in this game was amazing. But what did the focus lead, and who are some players that kind of emerged from the rest when they were focused in this game? Well, I got a few that are here that fit that category. I mean, we got Stroud, we got Olave, we got Ronnie Hickman, we got Travion Henderson. We'll talk about that rushing touchdown that Henderson had on the very first drive, because as I was watching that play, you may say, Jay, what play was that Henderson had? We're talking about the offensive line and defensive, well, the D-line in a second, but the offensive line and how they were consistently on their job and how they were opening holes for the running backs. Second half, you may want to say, Jay, the runs were shorter. Well, the play calls were specific in the second half to keep everything inside the box, not have runs bounce outside. No outside runs are really called. It's all, let's keep it inside. Let's go move forward and let's move the ball very, very quickly, as we know we can. That touchdown run in the first drive of the game, we had Ohio State, the Buckeyes. There was Rutgers was offset right off the line of scrimmage, one step back off the line. And at the snap of the ball, you had Paris Johnson Jr., the right guard, pull around left, and you had Jeremy Ruckert go pull around left as well. Jeremy Ruckert was behind with the kick-out block, getting the linebacker that's coming in to fill that void. Paris Johnson Jr. got around, and his job was to push his man inside the line. So he not only had to get around quickly, but he had to push his man in to the right. Jeremy Ruckert kicks his man out to the left, open up a huge hole for Travion Henderson, 44-yard line, the opponent's 44 on the first drive of the game. And what happened next? That boy took that thing to pay dirt. Now, on the broadcast, I remember this very well, they talked about Jeremy Ruckert. But you also have to mention Paris Johnson Jr., because if Paris Johnson Jr. does not get his block on that drive, it impedes and messes up the path and the track that Jeremy Ruckert is going on. If Paris Johnson Jr. does not get around, then what you're going to find is Jeremy Ruckert can't get to his man. The man that Ruckert was supposed to get to could easily stop the play in the backfield, but Johnson Jr. moving quickly. And I'm really impressed. By the way, side note, I'm really impressed with how well Paris Johnson Jr. has moved inside to right guard, because going from tackle to guard, your footwork is different. It is not easy. Nicholas Petit-Frere going from right tackle to left tackle, it's not as easy as you might think. And all this moving around of the offensive line for the Ohio State Buckeyes hasn't really been the problem. They haven't been perfect, but it hasn't really been the problem for Ohio State. The biggest problems, I'm really impressed with Johnson Jr. and the other men along the offensive line. C.J. Stroud. The stats say one thing. They say a lot. I mean, they say about consistency, the yards he's getting around, how he's passing the ball around to different players all over the field. Olave with 5 catches. That's the most catches anybody had in the game. You had Ruckert with 4, Wilson with 3. You had Smith and Jigba with 2, as well as Gee Scott Jr. with 2. And then you had Crawley and Rossi with 1 catch apiece. He is not only just going to find and have a favorite target or a target that is open, but he's not going to hold on to one person and say, hey, GW or CO2 or whoever the receiver is, hey, you're my guy. I'm going to target you about 20 times, hit you about 15, and we're going to move this ball down the field. I'm going to be about 25 for 38, and we're going to move this ball down the field. No. We're not doing that. One thing I like about Stroud is he was comfortable today. I'm going to go back to Twitter and mention something that I said during the game that I believe was very, very true about Stroud. Stroud has looked so comfortable today, being patient in the pocket, going through his reads, dropping balls in the bucket. Love this performance. I think that was the main thing we took away from Stroud in this game. So many other things we can take away as well. He has been very dominant today, but he hasn't been somebody that has been bad. Hey, if you're going to give me something, I'm going to be patient, go through my reads, and get the ball to the open man, even to the point that Chris Olave, I want to say was the second quarter early portion of the second quarter, that pass when he had to go up, and catch the ball. Hey, I liked it. I like it a lot. And they had to review that call. I'm surprised they reviewed it because I thought it was very, very clear that his foot got in bounds on that play. But that's a testament to CJ Stroud. That's a testament to CJ Stroud saying, I know I didn't play last week, but it wasn't just my my shoulder getting healthy and me getting healthy as an individual. It also goes into the quarterback myself learning more about my craft by watching film and also by understanding what's going on the field by watching things on the sidelines last week. Not just last week during the game, but last week during practice. When you are seeing things from a different way and you're saying, oh, I would have made that move or that throw, and it would have been bad, and it would have been me being an individual and making a play that I should not have made. All of a sudden, you look back at how you played the football. You're like, well, yeah, I can't do that. I can't make that play. I understand that I was going to make said play, but I can't make that play because me making that play ultimately leads to an interception, to a turnover, to the other team scoring the ball, getting favorable field position. I can't do that. And I think what we have learned about Stroud is even though he's not playing, he's learning. What we've learned about Stroud is even though when he is not on his P's and Q's, when he's not on the field practicing or playing, he is doing things mentally and getting mental reps every single day so that when it comes down to him being the quarterback, the best quarterback he will be that guy. We'll talk all week long about Stroud's performance and how we can project he will look throughout the rest of the season because I do believe we can take away numerous things about how Stroud looked today against Rutgers. One of my favorite things about Stroud, I mentioned how he wasn't stuck on one player, but he slid when he ran. And I noticed when Kyle McCord ran in the second half, a scramble and got 5-6 yards, they're teaching how to properly protect your body. And instead of sliding feet first, diving or sliding, well, more of a dive at this point, head first, so that you're getting the most amount of yards that you can with the ball in front of you instead of behind you. I noticed that. I was like, whoa, that's different. Because most quarterbacks, even my lifetime, your lifetime, most of us, we have all seen quarterbacks that slide feet first. There's nothing wrong with that. There is a possibility of a leg or a knee or somebody diving and hitting you in your head or your shoulder, and potential injury. But if you dive in the way that the quarterbacks are at Ohio State, you're firmly saying you're getting more yards that way than you would if you slide feet first. One of those things that I noticed, I'm like, hey, I wonder how much longer we're going to see that. I wonder if that's a thing from one quarterback in Stroud or something that they're being taught in practice. I firmly think it's something they're being taught and executing on the field. I loved the health. I loved seeing CJ Stroud be very, very comfortable with this offense and not really getting too flustered. The poise we saw after 1 week off, you might think this Rutgers defense that has given people fits this year, which almost did what was needed to beat the Wolverines just a week ago, you would think, hey, this defense, they're going to be tough. They're going to confuse me, and I'm going to be running for my life, and I'm going to be a little uneasy. Even when there was pressure, there was a touchdown pass, play action pass to Jeremy Ruckert over the middle of the field, in the red zone. There was a defender on the left side, linebacker, that came around untouched. Seemed like Stroud knew in his mind, hey, my body clock, I got to get this ball out. And he got the ball out to an open Jeremy Ruckert right before he was hit by the coming defender. We're learning a lot about Stroud, and we're finding out there's a lot to like about this young man. You know what else I like about CJ Stroud, and I like about the other players around him, is that they're all kind of like him, focused on the task. Whatever the task is, whatever the play is at that time, they are focused. Focus seems to be the entire word of the phrase and word of the day. Destroy is in the title of the show. Destroys, plural, because they destroys currently. Destroyed, it will be the title, maybe eventually down the road. Ohio State dominated, demoralized, looked like sometimes a demolition derby. All these D words to describe how Ohio State looked, but it all goes back to the focus. And Chris Olave, many people have been wondering, were critical and saying, how can Olave have a game like this? How can Olave have a game where he doesn't get any catches? How can Olave this? How can Olave that? Olave. And the focus that we saw from Stroud, we're seeing that Chris Olave says, hey, man, look, it's just one game. It's just one game. I have played pickup basketball, story time. We all love story time with Jay. I played pickup basketball before. I've had games where I have been on. Now, when I play pickup basketball, you won't see Jay dribbling very much. You will see Jay move, and if he gets the ball, try to move it around and get to the open man, assist, some good assist every now and then. But I'm trying to shoot the ball. Could be because I'm an Indiana kid. I'm from Indiana, and Indiana's known for shooters, not just Reggie Miller, but Indiana boys can shoot. So that could be why. But I want to shoot. And there are numerous times I've had games in pickup basketball where I have been on, and I have been just making shots 2-3 games in a row. And all of a sudden, I don't get the ball. There's a new guy on the team, and he wants to dominate and really take over. And all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, man, look, I was on. I know you're new. I don't know you didn't see the previous games. But I've been hitting. Your teammates are saying, give me the ball because I'm feeling it right now. But you are doing your own thing. We end up winning the game still. And the very next game, my mindset sometimes gets a little flustered. My guys are there like, hey, man, look, he knew, man. Don't worry about him. You will get your ball back. We know this is your day. We know this is your time to shine. You will get the ball back. And with Chris Olave, he had every right, in some people's estimation, some people's minds, to kind of fall back and say, man, look, I know I had a game. I know I had a game where it didn't look good. I know I had a game where things did not go very well. I know I had a game where the ball barely came my way, but I'm not going to fold. I'm going to keep on staying focused. To the point, Chris Olave had one of those tiptoe the sideline catches. I want to say second quarter he had that because he really didn't play much in the second half. And I'm like, hey, man, that's number 2 or 3 this season where he is tiptoeing along the sidelines when it looks like he is going to go out of bounds, when maybe last year he was going to go out of bounds. And in practice, they're saying, hey, man, look, ain't no reason for you to go out for you to go out of bounds. You were too smooth, you were too fast, you were too quick to go out of bounds in that way. So what we're seeing right now with this team, the focus they're saying, the determination from last week against Akron, 59-7 to today, 52-13, I believe was the final score. This is a team that is focused and determined to get better every single day. Another guy that continues to get a whole lot better. We got to cross things off here on my list here. Ronnie Hickman. Now, I was curious about how Ohio State was going to utilize the bullet position in this season, and curious if there was going to be a variation, if there were going to be guys that were going to be situational to where you're going to play at this game and then you're not going to play in that game. That wasn't my original thought, but after I seen game number 1 and seeing how everybody and their mama played in that game, I was thinking, hey, maybe what's going to happen this year is Ohio State, they're going to end up doing something that's not conventional and playing you in situations game to game instead of situations on the field, depending on what situation is right in front of us at that point in time. But Ronnie Hickman has been a very, very, very solid piece. Sure tackler, reading things properly. Now, there was a time or two where maybe he didn't break down properly, didn't tackle make the tackle. That's occasionally going to happen. But in this game, Ronnie Hickman was a leader in tackles. He had 11 tackles, 7 solo, and he assisted in 4 more. Cam Martinez had 7 tackles. Batch had 6 tackles. 6 tackles. Cody Simon had 5. Craig Young had 5. Bryson Shaw had 3. JT Tuamaloa, he had 2 of his own. The stats I'm looking at right now does not show tackles for loss. Those will come out later on. One thing about college football and the stats on the websites that I'm utilizing right now, the tackles for loss come in later on. It's very interesting about college football because no matter if you go to ESPN box score, CBS Sports, you can find it, but it doesn't have the TFLs at that point. Fox Sports, they all don't give the defense right away. So the defensive stats, we'll discuss those later in the week. But Ronnie Hickman has really been a bright spot for this team. And I do believe with the way the offenses are ran in college football right now, I firmly wish, not that Ronnie Hickman was at Ohio State 10 years ago, but I firmly wish Ohio State would have not been so stubborn into sticking in their 4-3 base defense and not getting out of it and not really changing what they do. I wish this move was made 10 years ago, because imagine the 2011, 2012, well, 2012 was probation. 2011 was Fickle. 2012 was Urban's first year. 2013. Imagine those years where unfortunately you're under probation, but you're implementing a new defensive look. 4-2-5 with the bullet. You'd be ahead of the curve. And you guys people think that Alabama has been running college football because they have. Imagine if Ohio State started recruiting guys like this 10 years ago. Man, you get ahead of the curve, not just offensively, but defensively. Ohio State could have had 3 or 4 or 5 Ronnie Hickmans to date. Not Ronnie Hickman specifically, that player, that person, but players like him. You could have had multiple guys that are hybrid type linebackers, because that is a new trend, new wave. It's been here for a while. Ohio State hopped on the train, and we're going to see a lot more better play from Ohio State's defense because of a guy that's really good at being inside the box and playing in space, either deep or shallow in the flats. It does not matter. Ronnie Hickman, really, really glad he has made this move. The defensive line, this is one concern for me, and I'll close up shop with this one. The defensive line, they got to find a way. To get more pressure and sacks from outside, from guys that are not in the interior defensive linemen. You got to figure it out. You have to. You got to find a way to get pressure from the outside. Now, you say, Jay, Tyrek Smith and Zach Harrison, they are there. Have you seen them do much this year? I have praised Zach Harrison. Tyrek Smith has been absent the past 2 games. Not sure if it's an injury, not sure if it's COVID, because they're still testing if they're not vaccinated. All those things are still there. I'm not sure all the details that are there, but why Tyrek Smith is not. Oh, side note, Harry Miller did get on the field today. He did get on the field, and it's very good that the same week he returned to the team, he is also back on the field. Noah Potter actually ended up having emergency eye surgery due to something that was going on with his eye. He's out of surgery, and it was emergency because he went in for a routine eye exam, and the doctor said, hey, no, you got to have surgery right now. A couple little notes that just popped in my head about some injury situations at Ohio State. But as good as the interior defensive line has been, Haskell Garrett has played better. Tyleik Williams at 315 pounds keeps playing better. JTT has been playing very well as well. You want to think you want more pressure from the outside defensive end position. Yeah, Ohio State's been good so far, getting better with interior pressure, but you really, really want it from the outside. You absolutely want that pressure from the outside positions, defensive ends, because it just makes the job of the linebackers and DBs in pass coverage a whole lot easier. Guys, a dominating performance by your Ohio State Buckeyes, 52-13, a 52-13 win over the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in SHI Stadium. You can follow me on Twitter if you aren't already at JStevens07. You can also, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe at Locked On Buckeyes. Just put that into the search engine. You will find the page. Subscribe. Also, hit that like button as well. One more quick reminder. This is a Saturday evening at the end of the Ohio State Buckeye football game. But also every single Monday, you can catch myself and Nate Dickinson on Locked On Big Ten. And Locked On Big Ten is your place to stay up to date on the Big Ten football conference. A lot of good things. We'll talk Michigan Wolverines. We will talk the Iowa Hawkeyes. We will talk Wisconsin football. We will talk what's going on with Maryland. We will talk all about the Big Ten football conference. Not just myself on Mondays, but also all week long. Nate Dickinson has other hosts that host different shows along Nate Dickinson has hosts that cover teams inside the Big Ten football conference all week long, highlighting their teams' games that they cover, highlighting other games around the conference, and really getting you ready for the upcoming week, next weekend's games for other teams in the Big Ten football conference. Guys, I'm out of here. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week talking about Ohio State football, and thank you for making this show the first listen of your day.